My name is Chuma Chini, and I am your family lawyer. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 1988, and I have over 35 years experience in family law practice. I've helped countless families navigate Nigeria's complex legal terrain, and I am desirous of bringing this knowledge and expertise to you free of any charges. It's a new day, and today we're going to be exploring the legal recognition of traditional marriages in Nigeria and what that means for you and for your spouse and perhaps for your children. We'll share a compelling story of what happens when traditional marriages are not properly registered. Traditional marriage is registered. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one, because I'm certain that not too many people know that you are legally required to register a traditional marriage in Nigeria. With some of the basics. In Nigeria, traditional marriages are more than just beautiful ceremonies. They are legally recognized. These marriages follow the customs of the specific communities or ethnic groups of the parties involved, but they don't automatically carry the same legal weight as statutory marriages. To ensure that all your bases are covered, many couples often opt for both a traditional marriage and a statutory marriage. This way, their union is recognized in every legal aspect conceivable. And then aspects of inheritance, property ownership, and divorce are easier to align and deal with. But wait a minute. Did you know that every customary marriage or its dissolution is required to be registered within 60 days at the area or customary court within the jurisdiction of the territory where the marriage first occurred? Well, this is the law, and it's required by Section 30 of the Deaths Compulsory Registration Act of 1992. Some states in Nigeria also have domesticated this federal legislation by passing their own state laws requiring registration of all marriages, including traditional marriages. So make sure that you tick this box to avoid future headaches. There are some states, as I mentioned, that have domesticated this law. Lagos State is one of them. Ogun State is one of them. And Rivers State is also one of such states. Besides these states, it's also amazing to note that customary law in itself, customary practices are beginning to catch up with legislation. The custom of certain places are very dynamic. And in some parts of Nigeria, customary law practices now require the registration of traditional marriages. For example, in some Igbo communities, we have these autonomous communities in Igbo land. In some of them, traditional marriages are registered either with the local government council or with the traditional ruler of the place where the marriage took place. It's good to bring to your attention that under customary laws in Nigeria, spousal rights, that is the rights of spouses, particularly those of women, vary depending on the ethnic group and the community. And in some cases even depending on the family or the grade levels of such families. But there are a few principles that govern these practices. Some of them include the right to society and service. Let me explain. In a certain case years back, Justice Oputa, as he then was, gave a judgment which we found very hilarious then. The man and the woman had been living together for quite some time. And then he died and his family members came to clear the house and clear the woman out too. The argument was that the woman was not married to the man. And Justice Oputa, as he then was, said that this man had enjoyed the society and the service of this woman for more than 20, 30 years. It cannot lie in the mouth of her family to say that she wasn't his wife for the purpose of continuing to live in that house where they had cohabited as husband and wife for a very long time. So a man usually has the right to be cared for and nurtured by his wife. This includes the provision of food, care, maintenance of the home, the children, and of course, the other room. Well, let's balance it a bit. It's not only the man that has the right to conjugal rights, but we'll talk about that in a bit. There is the funny one, the right to maintain law and order in homes or discipline is quite customary in many places. So in that regard, the man is expected to have the right to keep his home in order and determine how the wife behaves. But this right has limitations today, and the limitations are by our laws and even by custom and by constitution. The lines still need to be clear so that you don't become abusive of your wife because you want to maintain law and order at home. And then, of course, the right to maintenance of the wife is paramount. Igbo men take pride in telling you how well they take care of their wives. But across Nigeria, the wife's right to be maintained by her husband, including provision of food, clothing, and other necessities, are paramount. They are not negotiable. Of course, the wife has conjugal rights. Conjugal rights include sexual intimacy. Sexual intimacy, that is to say, the wife has a right to demand that the man should perform what we call marital duties. And of course, the right to companionship. What is marriage without companionship after all? Then there is the controversial one of the right to share in family property. Under certain traditions and customs, this is rare. But in some customary systems in Nigeria, a wife has a right to share in the family property, including land and assets, when the husband is no more. But I think that across most customs, if the man dies, the wife has a right to remain in the family house if she so desires. And the one that makes a man and a woman, the right the woman has to be protected by her husband from physical abuse, from emotional abuse, from interference by in-laws, by all and sundry. It is the right of a woman to be protected by her husband. And when a husband fails to do this, traditionally, you're not a man. Okay, let's knock on the doors of certain things that limit these spousal rights. It's easy to talk about them in vacuum, but when you bring them to practice, in Nigeria, certain things inhibit how we realize or the realization of these spousal rights. One of them is the patriarchal nature of our customary laws. The man is on the driving seat often, and this often limits the rights of the wives in customary marital relationships. And of course, the variations in customary laws affect spousal rights. As I mentioned a little earlier, some parts of Igbo land, when a woman is married, she ceases, for all intents and purposes, to be part of her maiden family. And of course, there have been many cases open in our political landscape where a woman wants to contest an election in her place of origin, and she's told to go to her husband's place. And then she goes to the husband's place. They say, no, you don't come from here. Go to your family or the state where you come from, or the local government you come from to contest an election. These are undesirable situations, and it's our hope that the laws of Nigeria will continue to address these issues in a dynamic way. Then you have the situations where customary law conflict with statutory provisions, including the Nigerian constitutions. It's needless to say that when this happens, the statutory law or the constitution takes precedence, and then the customary law is overruled. Now let's talk a bit about how the home runs. In practice, whilst the husband generally has a duty to provide for the wife and the children, the wife is expected in turn to support the home through non-financial means, such as managing the household and caring for the children and her husband. The rights of the spouses are often closely tied to how well they play these roles within the marriage. And failure to meet these expectations can result in disputes. And disputes are often resolved by elders in the family or the community. When it gets too difficult, the customary courts. Yes, we just talked about customary court and resolution of disputes in customary marriages. Are you ready for a real-life drama? The story I'm going to tell you involving the family of Adabio has this drama in high doses. Here, the husband tried to dodge, to avoid, evade his financial responsibilities to his wife by arguing that their marriage, their traditional marriage, wasn't legally valid because it was not registered under the Births, Deaths, Compulsory Registration of Marriages Act of 1992. How could a man reason this way? You got married to a woman, you went to her family, you paid the bride price, she was handed over to you. Then you wake up one day and you say, that marriage is not valid because I did not register the marriage. Let's see what the court had to say about this.
Mr. and Mrs. Adabio are locked in a heated argument. The room is tense with years of unspoken marital strain.
Woman, I have told you, our marriage isn't valid. It wasn't registered under the Births, Deaths, etc. Compulsory Registration Act. I'm not obligated to provide you any financial support.
How can you say so, my husband? We followed all the traditions. The bride price was paid, and our families consented. Our marriage is valid under customary law.
The Adabios have now approached the court to determine the matter. The petitioner challenges the validity of his traditional marriage on the grounds that it wasn't registered under the Births, Deaths, etc. Compulsory Registration Act.
Your Honor, our marriage isn't legally recognized because it wasn't registered. I am therefore not obligated to provide any financial support to the respondent.
Your Honor, we conducted our marriage according to native law and custom. It is legally binding under customary law. We had an elaborate and fun-filled ceremony.
Mrs. Adabio reminisces their vibrant traditional wedding ceremony. Family members gathered happily to perform the rites, the dowry was handed over, and the elders blessed them. The court delivers its verdict.
After thoroughly reviewing the evidence and testimonies, it is clear that the marriage conducted according to native law and custom, with the proper dowry paid and the family's consent duly obtained, is legally binding under Nigerian law. The petitioner's argument is dismissed, and he is ordered to fulfill his obligations to his wife and provide financial support.
The case of Adabio versus Adabio highlights the legal recognition of traditional marriages under Nigerian law. Even without registration under the Births, Deaths, etc. Compulsory Registration Act, a marriage conducted according to native law and custom is valid, provided the essential elements are met. However, it is important to take all necessary steps to avoid drama, as Mrs. Adabio found out.
It's amazing how not many people have heard that they need to register traditional marriages. Let me confess, until we began studies into this episode, it was difficult for me to believe that truly this law existed. But there's a law that requires that you should register all marriages, and this includes traditional marriages. And here's the scoop on why registering your traditional marriages is actually a smart move. Number one, unregistered marriages can leave spouses with limited or no rights to inherit each other's estate in the event of death, and this could lead to limitless, endless legal battles. And then claiming ownership of property acquired during the marriage can become challenging without formal documentation. If my wife, for instance, bought a property in the course of our marriage, and then she's beginning to assume that because she bought it in my name, I cannot claim it. I could claim it, but it depends on whether our marriage is in fact registered. And then when you do not register your marriage, you leave yourself with fewer legal protections in the time of divorce, if it occurs. And then this affects how your property is divided amongst the spouses. And even the issue of financial maintenance can become a problem, because one party could say, hey, we didn't register this marriage, and then I may not be able to pay you your financial maintenance. This may sound odd, but like the case we just saw, sometimes the court is able to see the wool and remove it from their eyes and help the victim in the circumstance. But don't wait on the court to be the one to deliver you, when all it takes for you is to go register your traditional marriage. If you haven't done so, do it now. Remember that if a traditional marriage isn't registered, it can complicate legal matters. Whilst the marriage might be valid under customary law, it may lack the full protection of a statutory marriage. For example, a widow might find herself excluded from her late husband's estate if the marriage wasn't registered. Similarly, property disputes can be harder to resolve without legal documentation. So there is it. Traditional marriages are recognized in Nigeria under native law and custom, but they may be tainted with unforeseen legal challenges if not properly done, and when it is done, if not properly registered as required by law. Spouses generally have rights under traditional marriages, but this can be limited, particularly in unregistered marriages. So if you are planning a traditional marriage, please understand both the customary laws and the potential legal consequences of not following the custom appropriately and registering the marriage when it is done. Register your marriage under the Deaths Compulsory Registration of Marriages Act today and protect yourself and protect your marriage. This has been today's episode of Your Family Lawyer. Please join us next week as we'll continue our discussion on traditional marriages and how they affect inheritance rights of spouses and of children. Until then, stay informed and be empowered. And please be good to your family. My name is Chuma Chinya, and I am your family lawyer.